I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is K. New era. How are you doing, man?
Doing great, man. The last 2 weeks have just been something special, and I get to go see Oppenheimer again tonight.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm happy.
Second time? This time in IMAX? Is that right, or was that the first time?
This time is digital IMAX at the Udvar-Hazy, so I get to watch the movie in the same building that the Enola Gay that dropped the first bomb is in.
Oh, my goodness.
Fucking
Okay,
nuts, right?
So that's K. And
up.
just a real quick heads up, and just moment of appreciation before we get into the episode. We're talking Chase Young hype. We're talking Sam Howell hype. That's right. Training camp has begun, so we're going to get into the boys. And then we're also going to talk about Sam Howell's game against Dallas last season. I decided to rewatch it. And I had a couple observations that I wanted to bring to the forefront. But first things first, we hit 450 subscribers. Just want to thank you guys. Really appreciate that. The support means a ton to us. And so if you could please, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. That would mean the world to us as we continue to try and grow that following and count. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. All right, K. Why don't we go ahead, jump in. Chase Young is back. He wasn't at the voluntary stuff. Everyone was freaking out about it. He's in a contract year, so I can understand some of it. But he's looked good, K. K. What have you been hearing about Chase Young? What have you been seeing with Chase Young? I'm getting pretty giddy over here.
Same here. I think the general consensus is he's back, like the Chase that we knew. He's getting that zip on his first step. There was at one point where, I like this gentleman. I think his wife's awesome, but apparently he was beating Charles Leno like a goddamn drum out there at training camp at certain points in time. But and there's always going to be some of that. I mean, the offense is usually going to be slower than the defense when you first get in the training camp because the defense is just queuing off on everything. Just go for it. Because there's a little rust with everything, and defense can adjust a certain way. And as camp goes on, it always is going to scale more defense because they know what's coming from the offense. But whatever. The Chase Young stuff has been awesome to see. You could see how much fun he's having. You could see also just from a bigger perspective when it comes to the training camp, the fact that they have the stands in there, it's been jam-packed. Chase Young, even when he's not playing at his utmost best because of injury or whatever, has always been the biggest cheerleader on the sidelines when he's there at the games. And you can see how much he feeds off of energy. And to get the training camp fans back in huge droves, I think it's only fueling him even more. And seeing that press conference that he gave when they asked him, I forget the exact wording of the question, but it was along the lines of like, do you think you owe it to the fans or to the team to play at a high level or this, that, and the other? He's like, no, I'm just going to do me. And I think for some people it might have rubbed them the wrong way, but not me. I loved it. It was a confident answer. It was somebody who knows who he is. And I think he's being honest with us when he says it himself. He feels like he's back. He feels as though he's got that step. He's got that speed. It's instinctual. And that's what we want from Chase Young. That rookie season Chase Young before the injuries have kind of had him not at 100%, not playing with that reckless abandon almost that you kind of see him with. And I think that if you get any bit of that back on that defense, oh boy, is that going to be something special.
Yeah, and again, if you look at the interior line, right, we have Deron Payne, we have John Allen, so they're controlling that middle. And then Chase Young, and this is an excellent point from Ryan Fowler on Twitter, who works for the Draft Network. He may have been local at one point as well, because he's tweeted about this team a whole lot. But one of the observations he made about Chase Young in camp is that he's starting to beat people inside. You know, a lot of times you would see him in a game, and he's going to the outside and just either bull rushing right down, through the middle, through the chest of that offensive tackle, or he's going around him. Well, now if he's starting to swim in, I mean, it's going to be fun to watch the progression of Chase Young. Chase Young in a contract year. He does not have a contract for next year. No. And it's going to be fun to see Montez Sweat on the other side also, just to name the fourth defensive lineman over there. how he's going to react also, because he's also in a contract year. But nothing but buzz about Chase Young right now. Chase Young and Montez have actually worked out together this offseason. So you don't need to worry about any sort of friction over there about who's going to get that big deal, who's on their way out. I don't see us signing both. Long way to go, though. Long way to go. We'll see how Josh Harris and his group want to handle the whole contract situation. But there's a lot to be excited about over here. Again, it seems like he's adding to his arsenal. I'm not opposed to paying them all. But now that we have more analytics, when it comes to personnel, when it comes to contracts, a lot to be excited about. I have full trust in the new ownership as well. Just as an aside, let's see how they do. You got to give them a shot here. Just
no, 100%. And that's the thing is, like, if you look at this defense over the years, or you look at defense across the league, you want those freak athletes, right? The guys that are just freakish in what it is they do. If you look over the course of Washington's history on defense, the names that probably shoot to mind are Sean Taylor, LeVar Arrington. Those would probably be your top two as far as like freak athletes on the defense could just make shit happen. LaRon Landry to another degree and a lot worse. But the angle of, we have had some solid pass rushers that have come through, but they've either been one-dimensional how they do things, the Brian Arakpos, where it started getting so annoying, he'd go for the same two moves every fucking time.
And that's why you saw early success, by the way, is because there wasn't enough film. So like that was the move that worked, and then people picked up on it.
It's using the athleticism to kind of get through, and then he's complaining he's getting held every goddamn game down, and the refs are like, well, do something else then. And it started getting annoying. And probably the most complete guy that we had was Ryan Kerrigan, who's awesome. But Ryan Kerrigan, a very cerebral player, and didn't have the freakishly athletic gifts or talents that a Chase Young or LeVar or Taylor would have. So the thing with Chase Young is that he can kind of be all of those things. And if he's working on the cerebral approach and working on different techniques, this then catapults him into something special. It's what you see with Micah Parsons, right? He's probably one of the quickest learners I've ever seen at the position of, I have an entire arsenal of tricks. My toolbox is so large. And I think that if Chase Young is continuing to add to that, which I think has been something he hasn't been able to do because he's just been focused on getting healthy. So if he is healthy and he's able to add to that element of the game and actually grow from where it is we saw him as a rookie, the sky's the fucking limit.
Absolutely. And as we had mentioned, it's early days in training camp. So we're going to get more footage. We're going to get more positivity. It tends to be good feelings only when it comes to training camp. I mean, the team's going to put out really good film. The media is going to want to also put out really good stuff. And also we're still bathing in this new feeling of new ownership. And so
100%.
Nothing but good vibes over here. Just to follow up on what I mentioned earlier about Montez Sweat and Chase Young working out together. They also worked out with Odell Beckham and Von Miller. So they were all there at Ohio State with D-line coach Larry Johnson, who Chase Young calls a guru, and he's been working with him for a long period of time. So it's good to see him go back to his roots a little bit and go, hey, let's get back to work and let's go back to an area of familiarity so I can grow my confidence. It's excellent stuff. Any final thoughts on Chase Young before we move to Sam Howell?
Yeah, and the Odell piece is, from what we understand, Odell actually was coaching Chase on what to expect as far as the leg injury and how it is you need to bounce back or what it is. And if he's learning those components from Odell, who up until that, I mean, he's had a couple of injuries as his career's gone on, but I mean, in my opinion, he was clearly that fucking Super Bowl MVP.
I was going to say, he was going to go for 200 maybe by 3/4.
So I'm sorry, if you've got those guys with that amount of talent around those dudes and it just rushes off or bleeds off in any sort of way, I'm excited, and I think we have reason to be.
Yeah. You know how they say, like, you're a product of the people you hang out with? Well, he's hanging out with some pretty fucking good people. Okay, 100%. So you continue to celebrate that. Okay, instead of going, oh, well, why aren't you like them yet? Trust me, Chase got it in him to be like that. Same thing with Montez. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun watching.
And great guys coming around the training camp. Kevin Durant's there today. As much as I got my issues with him, Ryan Clark was there yesterday, who I never thought you'd see in another fucking Washington facility after what happened or what has transpired over the years with them. Yeah, it's just dope, man. It's just
training camp's buzzing, and shout out to the fans that are there out in droves right now. It's awesome to see. Let's go ahead and talk about QB1. All right. So Sam Howell, last year's 5th round pick. He ended up playing one game against Dallas. We'll get into that in a moment. But for now, training camp, a lot of positivity around him as well. A lot of people saying, hey, he can spin that thing. There are multiple videos of him throwing to Terry McLaurin. little side note there, Emmanuel Forbes is guarding him on all those. And it's actually good film, in my opinion, of Emmanuel Forbes. You could see the length and reach that he possesses.
Yep.
A lot to be excited about there. K-Dot, what do you make of the reports that Sam Howell is absolutely killing it so far? Do you buy it? Do you think there is just a little bit of sugar being sprinkled on the report? What are your thoughts there?
I think it's a combination of everything, right? It's like you said, we are all in this aura of the newness of the new owner. Training camp itself, I can't, as someone who's gone to training camp multiple times over the years, having the stands back is huge. Like I can't speak to how big a thing that is. And having to be able to have the fans with the cell phones and everything else kind of reporting back, there's enough people talking about the same thing that gives me enough to say, okay, I know how cynical our fan base can be. I think we're on to something. And when you hear the same way that we were talking about Chase Young working with these guys, is Sam Howell was working with Terry and working with Jahan, working with all these dudes. He already has a history of De'Ami Brown. De'Ami Brown has been a guy that I've heard one or two really good things about in training camp. That's a guy to watch. So, I mean, I think that we're going to talk about the Dallas game that Sam played, but the idea of, if you couple what you saw in that game, you couple what you've seen as far as what the entire thing about Sam Howell was the year prior to him getting drafted, how high he was going to be, we know there's talent there. And I think that if you couple that talent with familiarity with the guys in the offense, and with the energy that Eric Bieniemy's kind of giving right now, I feel good. I feel really good. Even some of the clips I'm seeing as far as how, like, there's no the arm talent's there. Nobody ever denied the arm talent was there, right?
Yeah.
There are things with the footwork that are always going to need to get better as you're developing as a quarterback. Yeah, 100%. But getting the zip on the ball, delivering is huge, especially for a team that hasn't had a guy that can just deliver the football. Like, we had a Taylor Heineke, but there are limitations on what it is he could do. There was Carson Wentz, who might have the tools, but mentally didn't have what it needed to do to make anything work because he's overthinking it completely. This is huge. And I think that the biggest thing that I'm seeing out of training camp, as far as any of the film that I've seen or talking to people, is what it looks like the offensive scheme is going to be. And the amount of guys that are going into motion and what they're trying to do as far as getting the ball in the playmakers' hands, which is something we've been screaming about here on the pod. They did it for some of the first game with Carson Wentz last year and then went completely away from it. Whether or not they want to blame it on the lack of running game, or they want to blame it on the O-line play, or they want to blame it on Carson Wentz himself, it does, or the injury to Carson, whatever. They got away from it. And we had our most success when you're getting the ball out quick to our playmakers. And as long as he's got a good feel for these guys where they can make the turn and that ball is right there and allow the most talented dudes on the team, arguably outside of the defensive line, to just do things with the football, once again, sky's the limit. It truly is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sky is the limit. And on that topic, I think Sam Howell's in a very good situation. I'm not going to call it ideal because ideal would mean like the best. That's the way I'm defining that, because I think the offensive line, I got a lot of questions about it, just to be quite frank. Right. So in order to play efficiently, it helps to have a good offensive line. Now he's mobile, and that helps a whole lot. When you have a mobile quarterback behind a shaky offensive line, they could still make stuff happen. They can extend the play. And you know what? On that note, why don't we just jump into talking about that Dallas game, K-Dot? Did you get a chance to see some of it as well, or at least some of the throws? Because I decided to I was like, you know what? It's a Wednesday night. Got nothing to do. Let me just go ahead and watch this game.
So all my games are recorded on YouTube TV, but once the NBA season ended, I quit. I unsubscribed from YouTube TV until football season started. So I've lost my access to the full game.
Fair enough.
I also didn't re-up on my NFL Plus, whatever, because the off season, I'm waiting until the preseason.
But it's right around the corner.
But what I was able to do is YouTube did have a highlight reel of every single throw and run.
Perfect. That's all you need.
So yeah,
that's all you need.
Watch that.
Okay, so first question, K-Dot, and I want you to answer this. This is not rhetorical. What are your expectations of a fifth-round quarterback in the NFL? Like, what would you expect from them in general?
Hopefully backup, for the foreseeable future, but project backup.
Project backup. Actually came away. Now it's a sample size of one. I came away thinking Sam Howell is more than good enough to be a starter in the NFL. Now, I hope it's with us, right? I hope it works out over here. But in terms of the things that I want to see as a fan, I think he showed me everything. So once again, his stat line, 11 to 19. So it's not glamorous, 169 yards, a touchdown and an interception. He also ran 5 times for 35 yards and a touchdown. Okay, so that ended up being his day in a win against Dallas. Now, the reason I'm excited about Sam Howell is, where do I even begin? You know what? Let's start simple. He's patient. And I think that is a very underrated skill to have when you're young. You know, it's the final game of the season. We're playing against Dallas. You got a lot to prove. If you're in a situation where you feel, hey, I should have been starting earlier, you may make an extra throw or two that just doesn't make sense. I think he did an excellent job on third down, just taking what the defense gave him and going, you know what, it's fine. There is a maturity there of we can live to see the next possession. If this goes, great on 3rd and 15. But if it doesn't, the check down's fine. He's playing the long game when it comes to that. And he's not a young QB going, I can make this play in double coverage. So I really like that. A big thing I really liked is his touch on the ball and accuracy. He's leading wide receivers. He led Terry McLaurin numerous times. His first career NFL throw, touchdown to Terry McLaurin. He's leading him on the deep ball. In fact, 2 of his incompletions were dimes. 1 to Terry and 1 to Jahan, and they both dropped him. Like the likelihood that those guys drop passes is low, but that's what happened. And it jumps that completion percentage from 58 to 69%. Like it's a totally different conversation. If Terry catches this, which he wasn't used to getting the whole season, I think that's why he dropped it. And Jahan, who was admittedly, it's a tough catch, but it's a catch we expect a first round pick to make. Jahan, to me, has it all, right? So I really enjoyed the touch and precision on it. He's not always just sort of Michael Vicking it, if you will, where everything is just gunned when he was younger in his career. And then he started applying touch and stuff like that. He's already got touch. So I really like what I saw out of Sam Howell there. And then, of course, we talked about it in the immediate aftermath of the Dallas game, this concept of see space, take space. There were a couple plays where he was supposed to sit back and find something on a 3rd down. He saw he could get the first. That's the goal. Get the first. And he did. And so he took it upon himself to go, hey, I know what the plan is, but I know I can get this. And he did. Both times he did that. So I came away feeling really good about Sam Howell because he can also, with that mobility, help the offensive line out. You saw Carson was not helping the offensive line out. The offensive line wasn't helping anybody last season, just to be clear. Okay. But when you're not mobile, it makes it that much tougher. It just makes it that much tougher. So Sam being able to move left, move right. By the way, he can roll left and throw. He did that a couple times.
He can.
Yeah. Rolled right. He can do that. And then 2 more of his incompletions were throwaways. So I think overall he did really well. Yes, a couple throws got away from him. The interception in particular, he tried to fit it. Charles Leno, who we mentioned earlier, was being driven into him as he made that throw. But overall, KDOT, I think there's a lot to look forward to here with Sam Howell. And I do recognize it's a 1-game sample, but it was against a Dallas team that could have got the first seed. Maybe they give up at the end. I don't know. But Micah Parsons was still in the 4th quarter. I do know that with 5 minutes left. So they were going for it. That's what I have to say about Sam Howell and what I saw.
I agree with most of that. I don't really have anything I'm strongly disagreeing on. I think that I would just say that what I was seeing out of that game more than anything was decisiveness. There's some confidence in the way that he throws the ball. There were only 2 or 3 bad throws that I saw in the game, but it's not, you could see he doesn't have happy feet. He's not nervous. There was a quiet confidence to his game in that Dallas game. And it's a small sample size. I mean, he threw less than 20 times in the game. It was a very much run heavy game. They ran over 30 something times that game. The intercept. So that's the thing is like, I can see that pre-read, this dude knows where he's supposed to go with the ball. And if it looks like it's supposed to line up the way it does, he chucks it. Yeah. And that to me is exactly what I want to see from a young guy, right? Is to get instinctual with what it is you're doing. You don't want that element of, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. I just got to throw it. Or they're not reading the way the play itself is supposed to be written. It's what you said, the Michael Vick version, which is, I see daylight, I go.
Right.
I see daylight. I see a window. It might not be my first read, second read, whatever it's supposed to be. I see a window. I got the arm strength. Let's go.
Right.
Brett Favre had that in him, right? There is a matter of, it looks as though he actually is, he understands the progressions, he understands the route tree, he understands what the receiver is supposed to be doing. And the only thing that you could see that when I said that there were the bad throws is, like, you look at that interception, he saw something pre-read, saw something open, knows that that's probably supposed to be his progression, and went for it. With time, you'll see defense disguise something that's not exactly what you saw there.
And that was disguised, by the way. So
Right.
Malik Hooker actually was stepping up a little bit. So he assumed, okay, I've got him over the top.
Right.
He didn't. So that is an example of, this was more a capability check. And seeing that the boxes I need checked for a QB, a starting QB, he checked those in this small sample size, where it's like, okay, you know what? I think he is capable of being a good starter in this league. You're right. And he's going to make mistakes. And this is a new system, and it needs to be talked about, because Eric Bieniemy, hopefully it's a QB friendly system. Truth be told, we don't know too much. We're still finding out about his involvement in Kansas City. We're still finding out about what he's about. So there are going to be questions. There are going to be growing pains.
But it lines up nicely.
Exactly. They're not, the expectations are not high with Sam Howell, but I think he can exceed those.
The one thing I kept hearing about in training camp is there's been more motion than they've ever seen before. There are guys that are running sweeps and stuff and going in motion more than they've ever seen. And if you couple that with what you saw with Sam in that game against Dallas, which is, I know where my receivers are supposed to be. I know at least how to read a defense initially and see if something's open. And I'm going to be quick with my decision-making. That is a recipe for absolute success. Peyton Manning in his rookie season threw more interceptions to touchdowns. It's one of those things that you have to learn. It's through trial and error, and those are your growing pains as a quarterback. You can't be perfect. It's supposed to be, oh shit, they disguise that. And then you go over to the sideline, you look through, and it's like, hey man, hey, they did a great job on defense. This is what you need to look for that thing. And the only way you get through that is to go through the growing pains.
And this is where actually it kind of lines up perfectly with a Josh Harris being there and the word process. This is a process over outcome season. So like, yeah, look, he's going to make mistakes, but that is part of it. The question is, does he learn from them? Does he adapt? You know, and does he improve? That's what you're looking for this season. It's a success if Sam Howell's final 5 games are very, very good relative to his first 5. That is, to me, success, because then we go, okay, we have somebody here that we can build around.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like the idea of success for me is that, is this dude a turnover machine? And is he giving the playmakers enough room to do things in space? And if I'm coupling what I'm seeing early on in training camp compared to what I know that Eric B. or Kansas City likes to do, especially if you look at this year compared to other years when they had it, the Tyreek Hill thing became a Mahomes and Tyreek thing that actually I was always of the idea that it was regressing Patrick in the sense of fuck it, throw it to Tyreek. And that just being your safety valve, you don't get to really learn how to progress the entire offense, which it needs to be a more balanced approach. You need to throw the balls at all different levels and make shit happen that way. If this is going to be the case, we're working the quick game. The word is out that Antonio Gibson was asked what his role he thought was going to be with the team. And once it's still early, but he said that he was looking, the vibe that he got, and I always thought that this was, I saw somebody say that maybe they gave up too much information on this, was that he was going to be more of a third down J.D. McKissick type of back, which in my opinion, if you look at Antonio Gibson and his skill set, holy shit, that'd be fucking awesome. Especially if Brian Robinson is the guy that's going to be the third down. Rough
you
and
mean
tumble.
First, second?
Sorry,
I see.
down,
Third and short.
Back.
Third
right.
and short. Got it. Yeah.
Well, mostly you're 3 down back. You're more you're more normal running back in the sense of if you're going to run it between the tackles, you're running outside. That's the guy you want. Antonio Gibson is really that change of pace guy. But even now, once again, early in the training camp, the word is that they've had Brian Robinson running shit downfield. And if that's the case, you got two guys in the backfield that can catch the ball, because that was actually sort of a revelation. His rookie season was Brian Robinson actually pretty good fucking catch.
You got some hands. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you got two backs that can do that, we already know what the wide receiving core can do, and you're moving these guys around. It's what it's what I know I was always hoping that they were going to do in the last, who was our offense coordinator? Damn, he's
Scott Turner.
Wow, I forgot even about Scott Turner's fucking name. That's how bad I wanted to begin. So this is what we wanted to see from Scott Turner, right? Was that there was going to be play around with it. You've got tons of guys with tons of talent, and as long as you get a good delivery system there to them, anything can happen. And I think that if you couple that just to decision making from Sam with getting the ball out in those quick things, it could really be something cool. Yeah, I don't see a lot of situations or scenarios in which I look at Sam Howell after the season unless he just absolutely goes out there and looks like the anti-version of what it is we saw in the Dallas game. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I need to see that you're not the one costing us all the mistakes, because if the rest of the offense is working the way it's supposed to work, we should have success. Like, it's just do your job, Sam. Like, and I think overall in the NFL recently, especially recently, everybody's talking about the running back position, and I got my own thoughts about the contracts and stuff there.
Yeah, sure.
I think what isn't ever talked about enough is the way that quarterbacks are treated in this league. And when you ask me to start this off, what's the expectations of a 5th round quarterback? They should be fucking low. Like, but the thing is, like, the expectations for quarterbacks, period, need to sort of be adjusted in most people's minds. It is a process to learning how to be as best as you can in the NFL. Some guys go to situations that are already pretty much ready built or ready made. Offensive line's great. Defense is good. They already got the weapons. Fantastic. Do your thing, right? You get some dudes that might have the opportunity to do so, but the offensive line is trash. They don't have weapons, and they don't have a defense. And then because of the NFL, tick tock, boy, you need to get.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it used to be that you gave these guys years to get it kind of figured out. And it feels like that window is shrinking. And it's just doing a disservice for everybody. It's doing a disservice for everyone. The idea of the expectations being so high in such a short term isn't helping anybody out.
So keep a long-term outlook when you're looking at this season as well, is just sort of the point over here. Let's jump over to the comment mailbag, where we have, I think, 8, maybe even 9 comments, K-Dot. Wow. So we have 8 or 9 comments, and one of them is from a previous video. So I'll get to that one last. But we're going to go ahead and begin with DMike2. Again, these are like the YouTube tags, so I don't know the exact names unless I've seen them before. Great podcast. He's finally gone. That is true. Yacht Bitch is finally out of the building. It's amazing to see Josh Harris, Magic Johnson with his family decked out in Commanders gear. It's surreal right now. It's just an amazing time to be a Washington Commanders fan. We're playing with house money, and it feels light. And it's about football. It's amazing. Then we got Earl Bruce. Dirty Dan traumatized all of us. That is true. The organization, the media, and the fans all suffered. K-Dot, we have suffered quite a bit, haven't we?
It's like, when you call him Dirty Dan, I want to take like a doll and say, where did the bad man touch you? And I'd say, my heart. He touched my heart in all the wrong ways.
I know. But fortunately, the bad man's gone. Then we got Vindo with 2 comments, one with all the, party confetti emojis, about 12 of those. Appreciate you, Vindo, for that. And then the grass is greener on the other side. Let's go, boy. Let's go, Vindo. OG over there with 2 comments. Then we got my generic Namo. That's Matt Regan with the YouTube tag there. Once again, lion eyes emoji. I don't know. I think he's talking about the Detroit Lions.
Matt, do us a favor and unsubscribe.
Don't unsubscribe. We do really appreciate you, former co-host. But hey, by the way, just to his point though, the Lions, I don't know, they were pretty hot at the end of last season. We're not going to get into it because this isn't a Lions podcast.
They have Jared Goff in like the top 60 of the NFL 100. Fuck out of here.
We then got another co-host or former co-host of the podcast, Spencer Brudick. 2043 Super Bowl, here we come. I tell you what, I'd take that. I'd love it sooner, but if you were guaranteed a Super Bowl in 20 years, that'd be pretty cool.
Don't know if I'll be around that long. So,
Kata. I'll help you out with that. And then we got Nelson Wolf with 2 comments. The NFL is a better, more interesting league when Washington Field's a good product. Congrats, and looking forward to seeing the new culture that the new ownership brings to the franchise. Really appreciate that, Nelson. And then we got one more from Nelson. I believe. What are you laughing at, K-Dot?
I don't know if that's true because I don't remember it being the case. So it's like the league was so different. The free agency wasn't a thing. It's like the aspect of like, it's like when people in basketball so I'm one of those guys that like in basketball.
But you're not about to disagree with it, just to be clear.
No, I just don't know if that's true. So like I don't disagree. I just don't know if that's true. It might be true. It's like when I say in basketball, like basketball's better when the Knicks are in the playoffs because Madison Square Garden's on fire and it's awesome, right? I want to believe that about Washington. I really do. I just don't. I don't know.
Well, we got one last one from Nelson, and this one, I think we're actually going to discuss. Nelson's going to be on an episode. K-Dot, you're obviously welcome to be a part of it. We're going to be talking about Kirk Cousins, my friend. Amit continues to talk about Kirk's kneel down in 4th and 8. Why not mention him delivering a cold-blooded dagger to Adam Thielen on the road against the Saints in 2019 to set up the walk-off touchdown in OT? That was to Kyle Rudolph. That was spectacular. I will admit to that. It was on the road. To focus so heavily on 2 to 3 plays to build a narrative is only a means to discredit the overall body of work, which shows that Kirk is consistently a better than average NFL QB, in my personal opinion, borderline top 10 and top 2 to 4 in the NFC, who flourishes given the right situation. Appreciate the comment there, Nelson. And Nelson, we will be discussing Kirk Cousins. We'll have you on, and we will end up having that conversation. I'm looking forward to it. K-Dot.
Patrick Mahomes said Kirk has the most underrated quarterback in the NFL.
He's sitting right next to him, just to be clear. Okay, I'm also going to say that.
I agree with Pat.
That's fine. That was the Common Mailbag. This is District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically a Commanders podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like the video. Please share the video with your friends, family, strangers, and please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. And comment Mailbag. We always love interacting with you guys. Please continue to drop comments down. You might even get on the show. Nelson is. You know, that's how it works. So thank you guys again for listening. Appreciate it. After the pod begins right now. How's Oppenheimer?
Fuck. Oh, we haven't talked. So we haven't. Have we seen each other?
No, I texted you, but we haven't gotten into the like,
because we did the show on Thursday and I saw it on Friday.
Right.
Fucking awesome. Oh God, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. Went to the American Film Institute theater in Silver Spring and saw it in 70 millimeter standard 70 millimeter film. Okay. Which is if you guys have never been to the for all the people that are local, which should be pretty much all of you, the AFI Silver Spring is an amazing theater. They show a lot of old movies, they're doing a Boogie Nights night in 70 millimeter. I might go to that. It was just dope, and I appreciated being across. See, people look at me as a cinephile, but I've told you, like, I don't consider myself a cinephile because I hold those people in higher esteem than I do I think of myself. But just being inside the theater with a bunch of like 56-year-old white guys that are like have their own little film criticism and stuff, and we're in line, and the dude that I was in line with had like an old boy shirt, and he was covered head to toe in tattoos and stuff, and me and him were just chatting up about film. It was a great time. And then tonight I got to do some work stuff in DC a little later today, but then I'm driving out to the Udvar Hazy to see it in digital IMAX, laser IMAX. On that, if you guys have been out there, it is a massive screen. And to be able to be in the same building, it's a little fucked up, but to be in the same building, the Enola Gay, which is the plane that dropped the first bomb, I'm going to be watching the film in the same building that plane is in, is cool. And then on the 8th of August, I get to drive up to Philly to see it in 70 millimeter IMAX, which is the ultimate format that's very hard to get tickets to.
Okay, so congratulations. I am now thinking, first off, I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, or Barbie. I haven't done any of the Barbenheimer stuff.
Barbie on Monday.
Okay. My sister's seeing Theater Camp on Sunday.
Really excited to see Theater Camp.
Actually looks very, very funny. I might tag along for that one.
Gordon, I love you.
I have never seen, because you were bringing that up, I've never seen a movie in theaters twice. Ever. I'm trying to think about a movie I would do that for. And I'm struggling. I just feel like once I've seen
all the
it,
time.
what'd you say?
I do it so many times.
So many times.
Like, look at the movies this year. I've seen the movie theater more than once. Across the Spider-Verse,
Okay.
Beau is Afraid, Guardians of the Galaxy. I saw that twice. What else did I see twice? I was gonna go see Mission Impossible a second time, but then Oppenheimer came out, so I'm not doing that.
Right.
I feel like there's another one. But yeah, I go to movies. I do repeat viewings.
But you're big into movies. You appreciate all the little details as well and what goes into it and stuff like that. I just sort of show up. I'm like, what's the story? That was fun. Cool. And some of them are spectacular. I mean, really, really enjoy them in the big screen, watching with a bunch of people. Like watching, this is a terrible example because in terms of like, you don't need any CGI. You don't need any like amazing effects. Watching Superbad in theaters was awesome with all the other people in there and just laughing at the same stuff. Cause that was a pretty game-changing movie, right? It set off so many other movies that attempted to do the same thing because of how good it was.
Well,
That was fun in theaters.
Superbad's movie experience. So the movie came out in 07. I'm class of 07. It came out the summer after I graduated high school. And
yeah, I was going to say summer 07, right?
Yeah.
Because I was entering junior year. Yeah.
You're at junior. So I remember Brendan, who's been on the pod, Packers fan, a buddy. Everybody was starting to leave to go away to school. And because I took a month and a half off my senior year because I learned what weed was and I stayed in my truck, I lost all my scholarships to college. And it was like the first time that I truly felt as though like my life was sort of imitating what was happening on the movie. And like the separation, my friends are leaving. I've got to kind of be on my own here in the city.
Right.
And just, it was a packed theater. And it was a lot of people around our age that were like just about to leave to go to college. So the whole theater experience was just cathartic in a way. And just it hit a little harder than it should have. I mean, I still think that movie's awesome. And it's a shame. We should have gotten the buddy cop movie with Bill Hader.
Oh, and Seth Rogen. Absolutely.
It's still one of the biggest botches they've ever done.
Everyone would have watched it. Oh, but I was
actually thinking the record I have for most viewings of one movie in a theater is 9 times. And I know that by heart because I've talked about this a lot. I saw one movie.
Cats?
Fuck, I've still not seen Cats. Thank you very much.
It set itself up. I had to.
9 times. It was 9 times. I wanted to go for 10, but I ran out of time. I had to go out of town and I ran out of time to go back and do it. Cloverfield. The J.J. Abrams
a horror film? I can't remember.
It's like a found footage monster movie.
Oh, okay.
Now the reason,
that's the one with like the shapes in the fields and stuff like that from
that's Signs.
Shit, that's Signs. I don't know anything. Just to be in case that wasn't apparent through this podcast. I know nothing.
No, Cloverfield. They've made 2 other movies. The last one with Cloverfield Paradox fucking sucked, and then there was 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was like sort of a sequel with John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I enjoy the movie, but what I own it on Blu-ray. I watch it from time to time, but it doesn't. It felt like because of the found footage and it being in first person and it just being a ride, it felt as though it was a roller coaster ride that I knew I was never going to be able to experience at home. So I wanted to get it as many times as I possibly could because I knew I would never be able to replicate that unless I had my own theater.
I see. Okay. No, that makes sense. When you have like movies like that.
Right. It was like, I'm enjoying this ride so fucking much. So
I do it for Batman. So like, I think some of the scenes in Batman, I think I would really enjoy in theaters multiple times.
So the Udvar Hazy is where I went to go see all 3 Nolan Batman movies. No, I didn't see Batman Begins, but I saw the second 2. Okay. And me and Brendan, actually, what I would do is I used to be on this list where I could get sneak previews for a bunch of movies. So like I got to see the opening of both Batman movies like 6 to 8 months before the movies got released. They're very anal. You can't have your cell phone. Not allowed to talk about it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But seeing the Dark Knight intro, the bank robbery scene at the very beginning, I'll never forget that. And I will never forget going back to see it when the movie came out and you could see how they touch up certain things.
Yeah.
It was the first time in a movie that during a beginning of the movie there was a standing ovation. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen.
Incredible. I'm just imagining, and I'm sure this happened, but them filming it, or not filming it, but projecting it onto the big screen at Heinz Field. I would have loved watching it there. You know, where they have the scene where Heinz Field is actually falling apart. It'd be pretty surreal to watch in Heinz Field while it's happening over there.
Yeah, the Dark Knight, right? That was another thing. So I remember seeing this we drove out for the sneak preview of that, and that was before they had redone Bane's voice. So they had to go back and completely redo Bane. You couldn't understand any fucking thing that dude was saying. Like, it was so, like, it was like, dude, this is awesome. It was like, what? Is it just
he said he wanted the bacon, egg, and cheese. Sorry about that.
But it was like, I love seeing that and how the movie kind of progresses in certain thing. And that's always been a bit of a criticism with Nolan, is while the sound mixing is great, sometimes he lessens what we're hearing dialogue wise for everything else. Because for Christopher Nolan, to get into a little movie cinephile bullshit, while I don't think he's ever been great, him or his brother have been great at writing emotion in the script. They rely on the actors to really emote. The way that he truly emotes is through the visual and the audio medium of what it is that he's playing in the background and what you're seeing on the screen to give you a visceral reaction. And there's nobody working today that I think can match him. I think the close, he is this generation's Stanley Kubrick, and I don't say that lightly.
Okay, and I don't understand that at all, but I appreciate you saying that. I'm sure some of our viewers understand. You know
who Stanley Kubrick is?
No, that's why I don't understand it. I seem to have upset you. We had a moment.
Stanley, you don't know who Stanley Kubrick is?
Feel free to drop it in the comment mailbag. I read that every Friday at 2 p.m. So,
do you know who Martin Scorsese is?
Yes, I do know who Martin Scorsese is.
Don't laugh that off, fucker. You don't get to laugh that off after you don't know who Stanley Kubrick is. This is a serious fucking question.
I apologize.
Don't fucking bullshit.
I know.
You laugh it off. Like, of course I know who Martin Scorsese. Fuck you. I don't get to do that. Who is what? You don't get to do that. You don't laugh that off. Like it was an earnest question, you motherfucker. What is?
I'm trying to say, I know who Martin Scorsese is. K. Dot.
Do you know who Alfred Hitchcock is?
Mm-hmm.
Name an Alfred Hitchcock movie.
I don't know that I could do that, but I know the name.
See, that's what I'm saying. I'm not all right. Look, I'm gonna call it what it is, because I do this with James on the ASOS podcast.
Okay.
Y'all are just movie illiterate. So
shout out James.
Y'all just movie illiterate. He makes me angry. He makes me like legit. You haven't done that to me yet. Well, you kind of.
That's because I'm trying to learn. Oh yeah, he did Psycho.
No, stop.
I just looked it up.
Stop. God damn it. See, this is what I'm saying.
Who could
I'm not a cinephile.
Vertigo?
Fuck you. I'm not a cinephile.
Cinematic masterpiece.
I'm not a cinephile. I think, please, people, if you've gotten this far in the comments, tell me I'm not crazy. This is basic knowledge shit. This is the movie equivalent of, are you aware of who Joe Montana is? Like, if I asked a football fan, like, do you know who, or you know what, let's go even deeper. Do you know who Johnny Unitas is? I feel like if you consider yourself a football fan, you should know who that is, right? So like, I don't consider myself a cinephile. I'm not. I want to be, but I'm not. And the thing is that, like, I just think so many people are
Cloverfield 9 times.
I'm sorry. Yeah, some people are just fucking stupid when it comes to movies, which sets the bar low. So if I know who,
so I'm helping other people, is what it sounds like, because I'm willing to take the beatings on their behalf.
Unless you change it into a physical beating, we're not good. And hold on, what was your line about Cloverfield 9 times? Was that a shot, you piece of shit?
Oh, you're just saying you're not a cinephile, but you're at theaters.
It was Cloverfield.
That's what I'm saying.
It wasn't high art. It was a fucking high art. It was a roller coaster ride. You don't go to fucking Six Flags America and ride the Joker's Jinx 2-3 times because you think it's the greatest roller coaster all the time. You're like,
you know people do that. You know people do that for sure.
Oh, I'm gonna say something really mean.
Say it.
No, I'm good. You know,
After the pause is turning into anger sessions where I just say something.
Do you know who Oliver Stone is?
I have heard that name for sure. And I'm not trolling you. I've heard the name. But I don't know who he is.
You know who Quentin Tarantino is?
I know who Quentin Tarantino is, yes. Pulp Fiction.
Do you know who Orson Welles is?
I've also heard that name, but I couldn't tell you anything about Orson Welles.
Citizen Kane.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Citizen Kane. I haven't seen it. I told you we've been through this. I haven't seen anything.
You got to change that, but
what? So, if we were to begin repairing our relationship here, what is the first movie I should see?
Dude, I have no idea. I don't know where to. Because have you seen the Godfather movies?
No, I've heard they're incredible.
Do you know who directed any of the Godfather movies?
I don't think I can name the director.
I know.
That's the one with what's his name? Al.
Don't do it. Don't do that. Don't even play.
Isn't his name Al Pacino?
Don't play. Do not play. Stop. Just stop, motherfucker. You gotta stop.
All right, we gotta go, guys. We'll
start with Goodfellas, asshole.
I'll watch Goodfellas Friday 2 p.m.
No, Godfather. Goodfellas is my favorite movie. You're not ready for that. Just do Godfather.
It's not even worthy. I'll watch the Godfather.
Yeah, you're not worthy of Goodfellas.
We'll see you next week.
You stumbling, mumbling prick, you.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.